Picture this. You're not just some lone wolf with a sword, but a recognized professional in a world brimming with mythical beasts, potent magic, and political backstabbing.
Right.
What if there was an actual guild for adventurers, complete with rules, ranks, and even paperwork? It sounds wild, but the level of organization behind such a concept might really surprise you.
It really does. Today, we're plunging headfirst into the fascinatingly detailed structure of the Freelancer Guild,
Okay.
our source. It's a fan-made supplement for fantasy role-playing games that takes this whole idea of professional adventuring in a realm called Farsia to a whole new level of complexity.
Exactly. And forget simple game mechanics. These excerpts, they lay out a surprisingly intricate framework. So our mission in this deep dive is basically to unpack the inner workings of this Freelancer Guild, its hierarchy, its regulations, and the unexpectedly kind of bureaucratic aspects of battling the bizarre.
Yeah, the paperwork side of monster hunting.
Totally.
Yeah.
Prepare for some genuine aha moments as we explore this, and we'll try not to get bogged down in, excessive game jargon. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right. So on the surface, a guild for adventurers, it might seem like just a casual meeting point, right? A place to grab a drink, find a quest.
Sure.
But this supplement, it reveals a really formal organizational structure. We're talking about a distinct climb through the ranks.
Okay.
You start at bronze, which is where we find our observer, Pizzazz, giving us some perspective.
Oh, right. Possess.
Then you progress through iron, silver, gold, and finally the almost legendary mythic rank.
Wow.
And each step upwards means, greater responsibility, increased prestige, and you'd hope fewer encounters with, really nasty things and damp basements.
One hopes. What's fascinating here is why? Why such a rigid system in a job that seems, inherently chaotic?
That's a great point. And I love getting Pizzazzy's sort of boots-on-the-ground view from bronze level.
Yeah, me too.
It really highlights that journey from being a total nobody to maybe a seasoned pro.
And the guild halls themselves, they're not all grand, imposing fortresses, are they?
Oh, not at all. Some are described as, fancy stone towers, sure, but others as humble as a single room above a goat cheese shop.
Run by a clerk named Gary, apparently.
Exactly. That contrast between the epic and the mundane is just fantastic. It makes it feel real.
It really does.
The sheer variety of guild halls, it illustrates the guild's reach, and its ability to adapt. And inside these halls, you have specific roles.
Like the brokers?
Exactly. The brokers, Pizzazz hilariously calls them a mix of manager, therapist, and frequent disappointment. They're your crucial link to finding work, though. Well, and then there's the contract board itself.
Right, the job board.
Yeah, but apparently not without its own dangers, like that note Pizzazz mentions, do not touch the spider.
Seriously. Okay, note to self.
It just brings the everyday realities to life, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
And while there's this mysterious high circle at the top, these legendary figures, Zaz makes it clear that for the average freelancer, it's the broker you need to keep happy.
Absolutely. They're your immediate boss, essentially.
But what strikes me as really clever is the guild's neutrality. You mentioned Farsia. It's filled with conflict, right? Religious wars, sky pirates, philosophical zombies.
Philosophical zombies, okay.
Apparently. Yet this organization, this guild of adventurers, manages to stay neutral. How on earth do they pull that off?
That's a really insightful question. Their neutrality is absolutely key.
Yeah.
As the text points out, they aren't allied with any single nation. That lets them operate across borders, tackle problems local authorities might be unable or maybe unwilling to handle.
Like cursed artifacts or, sewer monsters, things nobody wants to handle.
Exactly. Those are classic guild jobs. Maintaining that neutrality probably involves some very careful diplomacy and strict internal rules.
Okay, so what makes someone sign up for this life? Why join the guild? Pizzazz has some thoughts, right?
Oh, definitely. According to Pizzazz, the reasons are, as diverse and sometimes as questionable as the adventurers themselves.
Like what?
We're talking revenge plots, the lure of gold, simple wanderlust, or, getting kicked out of pretty much every other halfway respectable organization.
Right, the classic fallback career.
Pretty much. And my personal favorite reason Zaz mentions, the unofficial motto, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
No. That just perfectly captures the spirit, doesn't it? What kind of, societal pressures might push someone towards this?
Well, that list, even though it's funny, it does hint at the different backgrounds. It suggests a world where maybe conventional paths aren't open to everyone, or aren't appealing.
Makes sense.
And the joining process itself, surprisingly rigorous. It's not just, here's my sword, where do I sign? No.
Yeah.
There's an application with some wonderfully strange sample questions. Things about planar anomalies, cursed goats.
Cursed goats again?
And the ethics of reanimating skeletons.
Okay. Ethical reanimation questionnaires. You really can't make this stuff up.
Right. And then skills tests tailored to different types, fighters, mages.
Right.
Then there's the record wipe, which sounds handy.
Very handy.
Though Pizzazz advises against, outright lying about murdering a duke or something. Minor omissions, maybe?
Good advice. Then what?
After that, you get a probational contract, your bronze low tier. You get your badge. You're assigned to a company that's their term for an adventuring group.
A company, okay.
And then it's a whole year on probation. A whole year of proving you're not going to, burn down the guild hall or accidentally summon something terrible.
Whole years. Why so long? Seems like a long time to wait before you're fully in.
Well, think about the risks involved, right? A year lets the guild really assess you. Are you reliable? Can you work with others? Can you handle the unique pressures of the job without snapping?
Okay, that makes sense. And you mentioned being assigned to a company, sometimes with creative pairings.
Yeah, the text uses that phrase. It really highlights how important teamwork and adaptability are. You might not always get teamed up with your best friends.
Like Pizzazzy's experience with 3 necromancers.
Exactly. You got to make it work.
So once you pass probation, you're in.
Yeah.
You're a bonded agent of the guild.
Right. Not just some wandering vigilante. It's official.
And that badge isn't just decoration. It's magical.
Yeah.
Linked to you.
Mm-hmm. Recognized across most kingdoms. It's like your official license to, deal with weird stuff professionally.
But here's where it gets really interesting for me. Even with this official status, this badge, you're not above the law. No matter how, as Pizzazz puts it, stupid that law might seem.
Crucial.
And you're not a private army. Just a highly skilled operative dealing with problems too strange or dangerous for regular folks. What does that distinction tell us about the guild's place in this world?
It tells us they operate within the existing structures, mostly. Being bonded agents gives them legitimacy, accountability. That badge is the symbol, but also a practical tool ID, access.
But being subject to local laws, that shows the balancing act. They need local cooperation to function effectively across all these different regions.
Yeah.
They can't just stomp around doing whatever they want.
Okay, so getting in is tough. What about getting out? If the life isn't for you, or if you, accidentally unleash an ancient evil.
Well, getting kicked out sounds pretty serious. It involves heinous acts. The text mentions things like setting fire to temples, mass murder, eating babies.
Eating babies. Okay, that's definitely heinous.
Yeah, or opening uncontrolled interdimensional rifts, generally frowned upon.
I would imagine. What if you just mess up during probation?
Consequences vary. Could be extended probation, more cleaning troll cages, maybe.
Yeah.
Or you could just be kicked out entirely.
Yeah.
Depends how badly you messed up.
And voluntary leaving.
Seems possible. Might involve fees, though. And you absolutely have to return the badge.
Right, the badge again.
And then there are the more permanent exits. Death, obviously.
A professional hazard. Indeed. And retirement if you're incredibly skilled or just incredibly lucky. Though Pizzazz hints retirement might not be peaceful either. Maybe old enemies catch up.
Ooh, interesting. What do these different ways out tell us about the commitment the guild expects?
It really emphasizes that joining is a big deal. The harsh penalties for misconduct show how much damage a rogue freelancer could do to the guild's reputation and operations.
Yeah.
And even leaving voluntarily isn't just walking away. It underscores the value they place on active members and, again, the significance of that badge.
So to wrap this all up, this deep dive into the Freelancer Guild, it reveals this surprisingly intricate, really well-organized structure for what you might think is just a chaotic lifestyle.
Yeah.
We've looked at the ranks, the buildings, the rules, the jobs, the whole professional adventuring life in Farsia. It really gives a fresh, detailed take on a classic fantasy idea.
It really does. What's so compelling is just the sheer depth of thought that went into building this framework. It's far more than just, a quest board in a tavern. It's a living, breathing organization with internal logic, hierarchy, support systems. It makes for such a rich backdrop for stories and really challenges that typical image of the lone wandering hero.
So here's a final thought for you listening. Considering this level of detail, this structure, how might actually belonging to an organization like this fundamentally change the experience, change the stories of individual adventurers? How does that mix of freedom and bureaucracy, heroism and rules actually play out in their day-to-day lives? Something to mull over. Think about which parts of this guild idea resonate the most with you.
That's a great question. Does that structure ultimately enhance the adventure, giving it purpose and support? Or does it maybe constrain it, limit the freedom and chaos we sometimes associate with adventuring? It's a really fascinating balance.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Freelancer Guild. Until our next exploration, may your contracts be rewarding and hopefully your administrative duties minimal.